for three. And a goal!
Bearcat Blitz on the Believe Network. We're making the transition to the football part of the calendar with that intro here very soon, as the basketball transfer portal, mostly quiet, has basically winded down for the most part over the past 10 days or so. We will touch on that at the end of the show today. But first, we got to get to the Bearcats football team adding a new coach to the staff. Luke Paschall coming to Cincinnati from MTSU, Middle Tennessee State, as Cincinnati's new special teams coordinator. We got an eye-popping video from Juwan Briggs as he gets ready to start his second off season with the Cleveland Browns, coming by way from Cincinnati, graduated from there and was a product of the team in the class of 2023 in the NFL. On top of that, we have a decommitment on the football side of things, and Baba Miller still out there in the basketball transfer portal as we record this show. I'm Russ Heltman. He's Neil Meyer. I'm from Cincinnati Bearcats on SI. He is from rival Cincinnati site, thefrontofficenews.com. Check us out on both of those platforms, and check out the show wherever you get your podcasts, whether that be Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, whatever podcast platform you frequent. You can check us out there and do so on the YouTube page as well, Talking Cats with Russ Heltman. Get to a couple messages from our great sponsors and then into the show after this. Neil, the coaching by committee of the special teams is over. They tested that out in the spring. I don't know if they necessarily hated it, didn't like it, but one thing led to another, and Scott Satterfield has officially hired a new special teams coordinator to take over the role officially from Kerry Coombs, who was not retained on staff following the end of the 2024 season. Luke Paschall comes over from Middle Tennessee State. Neil, he's got 10 years of coordinating experience. The Blue Raiders were terrible on special teams last year, but that's because they were really just a terrible outfit overall. 3-9 season and ranked 118th in Pro Football Focus's special teams grading in 2024, but much better in 2023, ranked 40th in that mark across that season. And he's coordinated special teams for the last 11 years at Arkansas State, North Carolina, UMass, Louisiana, and Middle Tennessee. Seems like a solid hire, Neil. I don't have any real big issue with this, especially when you think about them officially addressing a portion of the team that was, Neil, the biggest reason why they didn't go bowling last year was that special teams. If the special teams is average to good to if it's great this year, if three of those boxes are checked, then Cincinnati and you and I will be discussing them being in a bowl game once we get to the final weekend of November, first weekend of December this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a big turning point from where last season kind of took its turn, right? I mean, special teams was not living up to the expectations that they once had under Kerry Coombs and former Bearcat staff. So obviously you look at what happened last year. Obviously Mason Fletcher wasn't 100% towards the end of the year, it appeared. Then you had the kicking issues. You had a lot of blunders on special teams there. And single-handedly, Russ, it's safe to say those blunders on special teams costed Cincinnati a chance to go bowling, right? You have the missed field goals versus Texas Tech. You have the muffed punts, right? There's a lot of things that play into consideration about where the special team was. And it was not up to the expectations that it needed to be last season, which led to the departure of longtime coach Kerry Coombs, who has had a terrific coaching career. I'm not sure if he has even founded another job yet. I think he might still be out there looking, but overall, Cincinnati special teams needed to make a change, and everybody knew that. Everybody saw that firsthand. However, they tried it out in the spring with kind of the all hands on deck mentality, with multiple different coaches having their hands in the cookie jar there to help out on special teams. And then you look just after spring ball ends, they make this hiring of Luke Paschall from Middle Tennessee. But Russ, it's a great thing you mentioned. he has nearly 20 years of coaching experience in itself, but 10 with just about special teams, where he first got his crack at a special teams coach with Big 12 head coach Mike Gundy. So overall, there's a lot of things to kind of take away from this. I think it's a great hire, if you ask me. I mean, you look down, he has a lot of quality years as special teams. He spent 3 years at Oklahoma State. He spent teams at North Carolina as a GA back in 2012. And then he worked at Arkansas State for 4 years, back at North Carolina for a year. And then he's really kind of turned things out, and he's been a special teams coordinator just about every stop he's been at for the last 5 to 10 years. So overall, I think this is a big hire for Cincinnati, and it's something they needed to kind of get out and address, especially heading into fall camp, just because of how important special teams is when it comes to the football field.
It's so massive. I mean, we've touched on it, I think, probably 5, maybe 6, 7 times, Neil, in this offseason, just about all the numbers that were terrible last year and just how poorly they ranked. And to sum it all up, 88th in overall Pro Football Focus special teams grading last season, with a 5-7 record, which, Neil, they went, 5 straight losses, 2, 3, arguably 4 of those losses swung on special teams moments, or on special teams moments that just didn't happen when you think about their lack of explosiveness in both facets of the return game last year. There wasn't anybody making any real magic happen on the kickoff or the punt return side of things. And it's up to Luke Paschall to find the right mix of return men to get that magical elixir a little bit more into the cylindrical coffer, so to speak, of the lab that they're trying to put together in finding the right chemistry with this special teams unit. I think it's a solid hire, very solid hire, and it's good to get him in now, get him integrated, let him get a plan together, Neil, for how they're going to attack not only the punt game, which has been practiced a lot throughout the spring period, but you and I, we didn't see any kickoff practice the entire time, which I don't think they did. I didn't see any myself. I don't know if you did. But I know I didn't see it, and Scott Satterfield addressed that, saying we're mostly focusing, almost entirely only focusing on the punt game during spring, and then going to bring in the kick return game when they have more time and more ability to do so at fall camp, which makes sense. I mean, you only have so many, you got 2 hours to work with in 15 practices. There's only so much that you can attack with all those players in that short amount of time, just 30 hours to use on the field. Getting to some other news and notes, just real quick, Neil, I'm going to get to the decommitment for Cincinnati Bearcats football from Jeremiah Collier, 3-star commit who was locked in all the way back in September, but has reopened his recruitment. 3-star player, 962nd on 24/7 Sports rankings and 81st among linebackers. The Georgia recruit will not be a part of the Cincinnati Bearcats class, which is now sitting at 7 commits and hovering right near the 70th national ranking mark, depending on what service you look at, for the class of 2026.
Yeah, and it's worth noting too, Russ, that Jeremiah Collier was actually the first member to commit in the 2026 class, and he committed on his official visit back in September. Well, not official, unofficial visit back to Cincinnati back in September. So overall, to see him kind of reopen his recruitment, I mean, it's kind of interesting to see, because there has been some teams jump in the mix as of lately that could have maybe sparked that decision to decommit, whether that's a Vanderbilt or a Maryland, who both recently offered. It's kind of interesting to sit back, and we're going to sit back and see what might happen for the very talented linebacker out of Georgia. But it's going to be interesting to see, do we see more Big Ten schools coming into play? Do we see more SEC schools coming into play? Could that have played a factor in his decommitment? Who knows? But only time will tell in that aspect. But I don't know how to grade it as if it is a huge loss for Cincinnati's 2026 class, just because we're still so early in the process. However, it's never easy when you lose your first commit of the class. So overall, we're back down to 7 members, but things are going to keep ticking for Cincinnati. They're going to find guys in the portal or in the high school ranks. Things are going to start moving. So overall, you wish Jeremiah the best of luck, and it's going to be interesting to see wherever he ends up. It sounds like Cincinnati will still be in the mix based off what he said, but he's just kind of gauging all of his options as of right now.
And then one more note to get to on the football side, Neil, Xavier Henderson heading to rookie mini camp with the Buffalo Bills. Wishing all the best to Xavier. He was always super funny I wish we got to talk to him a few more times throughout his 2 years in Cincinnati, but always gracious with the media, always funny, and seemed like a solid leader for the team last season. So wishing all the best to Xavier Henderson. Hopefully he can find his footing in the NFL and make it past the NFL rookie minicamp window and keep getting a shot in the league. Anything else you got, Neil, when it comes to football?
Yeah, it's a good thing when you mentioned Xavier Henderson too, because I know after the draft concluded, there was a lot of us kind of sitting back was like, okay, you see the UDFA deals coming out and you're like, okay, is Xavier going to get a shot? Is guys like Eric Phillips going to get a shot? And then next thing you know, Eric Phillips signs a deal to go out to San Francisco. And then as of this morning, we had heard nothing on whether Xavier Henderson had an opportunity to go anywhere, whether that would be as a special teams guy or a potential practice squad receiver. And then you see on his social media that he's got an opportunity out in Buffalo. He's there reported for minicamp. That's huge for him. And it's a great thing to know. I know numbers didn't really tell for him last season. He didn't have the season he maybe expected, but he still played a big role for Cincinnati over the last 2 years. And this is going to be a guy who could go in there and maybe turn some heads at minicamp to maybe find a spot on a practice squad or an active deal. But like you said, Russ, he was always a great guy to be around. He was always smiling, always laughing, gracious with the media. Probably one of the funnier guys we have interviewed over the last few seasons. I mean, you never really hear stories about a guy in college buying his own jug machine and having the team over just about every day to catch extra passes. I know he said his mom was throwing him passes off the jug machine when she was in town. So overall, Buffalo's getting a hard worker, and it's going to be interesting to see how things shake out for a guy like Xavier Henderson up in the next level of his career.
Yeah, in Buffalo, I mean, they don't have I wouldn't say they have a Bengals level wide receiver room that he has to compete with in terms of the high level talent that they're bringing to the table at the starting position. So maybe, just maybe, he can impress during this minicamp and stick around and keep getting a shot with that crew. Taking a quick break here alongside Neil Meyer. This is Bearcat Blitz. We'll be hitting you with the basketball side of things after these messages on the Believe Network. Neil, basketball transfer portal has gone radio silence. No major contact out of the portal ranks really in the past 2 weeks. Has been past week essentially, but only one contact in the past 2 weeks when you think about Daniel Rivera being the only player that Cincinnati has publicly reached out to in that span. And Baba Miller still sitting out there, has not, according to my knowledge, committed to a school just yet. And Neil, he could be the final skeleton key piece for this roster. Not necessarily a skeleton key, but a final kind of fitting puzzle piece, I should say. He wouldn't necessarily unlock the entire team to hit a much higher ceiling or anything like that, but would be a solid addition. And overall, Neil, when we look at what Cincinnati has added so far in the past month out of the transfer portal, it's one of the highest rated overhauls in the entire Big 12. When you think about teams that have brought in 5+ transfers in the Big 12, there's been a few of them, almost half the league roughly. Only 3, including Cincinnati, have brought in all 5 of those transfers from the top 300 ranks in terms of overall player rankings. Cincinnati's top players include, obviously, Mustafa Tiem. He leads the way at number 29 overall on Evan Miyakawa's player rankings. You can check that out at evanmiyakawa.com. And on top of that, Neil, you have Jalen Celestine, who is the lowest rated recruit, 267th overall, mixed in between there, 120th ranking for Sincere Harris, 189th for Jalen Haynes, and 232nd for Kirk Carissa. The baseline level of talent, as we discussed, without any of those kind of hard analytical based numbers and rankings that I just brought up. We talked about it last week, talked about it earlier in the week. The baseline level of talent for this roster has once again jumped up. And it's once again probably put Wes Miller justifiably, and he would accept this pressure, under the most pressure in his professional head coaching career to make the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, it's safe to say that too, Russ, because if you look how things,
and that's not that's not throwing shade or anything. It's a positive because of what they've done in the transfer portal. It's been so good, in my opinion. I think you would agree.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it's safe to say that too, because you look down at what they did last year in the transfer portal. I mean, he was able to go out and sustain guys who have high-level playing experience and all that kind of caliber players that they were. They just weren't able to transpire and gel as the group together. Now you look at this group that he is bringing in right now, highlighted by Mustafa TM. Not only that, but you bring in a guy like UCF's assistant coach Ndiaye to come along with him. That's going to be a huge thing, especially with Ndiaye's career and what he has been able to do. I think that's going to be a huge thing as well, especially there in the recruiting game after Drew Adams left and went to Indiana. It's going to be a huge season, in my opinion. I mean, you look down, anytime you can add to the transfer portal to your team with guys who have made an impact on other Big 12 teams across the country, I think that is huge, right? You look down, Kirk Carissa played at Arizona, West Virginia, Kentucky. He's made his impact everywhere he's been. As long as the injuries don't prolong it, he should have an impact on this team, and I think everybody knows that. Then you look down, Sincere Harris was a Big 12 all-defensive player, first-team selection last year. He's going to be that tough, gritty guy, and I mean, Russ, you and I have heard rumblings that they expect him to be better than John Newman, and if anybody knows how big of a statement that is, it's guys like us who have been covering this team, because John Newman was a relentless defender, and I think Sincere Harris is right there with him and probably could come in and make another impact like Newman did. And then on top of it, Mustafa TM
could be the best 1-2 backcourt defensive combination in the conference, and one of the best, maybe top 10 in the country, between him and Day Thomas. It's that good, those two.
Yeah, and anytime you have two guys who are relentless like Day Thomas and Sincere Harris, both, especially Day Thomas being 6 foot, 6'1", Sincere Harris being, let me look at the roster, I believe he is sitting at 6'4". Yeah, so anytime,
he's long too at 6'4".
Anytime you have a bigger backcourt like that, who is very good defenders and elite level defenders, Cincinnati is going to look to probably push the tempo this season with those two and try to make those possessions for other teams pretty tough. But on top of it, Jalen Haynes, Russ, like you mentioned it, I love this addition for Cincinnati. I think him and Mustafa TM could be the 1-2 combo that Cincinnati was kind of expecting maybe last season with Dylan Mitchell and Aziz Bandego. But overall, I love what they have done this offseason, and I know they're not done yet, but so far,
I think there's still only 10 or 11 guys on the official roster. Right?
Yeah.
So
right now
they got to add some bodies for sure to fill it out.
Yeah, but right now you got to be pretty thrilled with what Wes Miller and his staff have done in the transfer portal for sure.
Yeah, I think it's 10 or 11 officially on the site. Plus, you got the two. I don't know if they have a Bayev, and
they don't have a Bayev in them, and
they don't have them officially on there yet. So I think they are sitting at about maybe 2 or 3 roster spots, roughly roster scholarship openings that they could add. And I would guess it's going to be one for sure additional scholarship player. I think they're going to add from the transfer portal, and then maybe one other one. But if not one other one, it'll be 2 walk-ons, and they'll go with the 13 scholarship guys. But still some work to be done in the portal for the Bearcats, but they've done a lot of good work so far. And as I mentioned, one of 3 teams, along with West Virginia and Baylor, to bring in 5+ top 300 transfers. Interesting that Dan Skilling's a top 50 transfer on Evan Miyakawa's rankings, number 49 overall, the top player that Baylor has added, according to Evan Miyakawa, this off season. Neil, not much else to get to on today's show. It was a lot of fun chopping it up, discussing the new special teams coordinator for Cincinnati Bearcats football and the roster overhaul, with a lot of good talent coming in from the Cincinnati Bearcats basketball team. We will reconvene next week, early on next week, Tuesday, Friday action, as the off seasons roll on between Bearcats football and Bearcats basketball. We'll see if there's any weekend additions to join the 5 transfers, right? Yeah, 5 transfers that have already been added to the Bearcats roster so far this offseason on the basketball front. For Neil Meyer, I'm Russ Eltman. This has been Bearcat Blitz on the Believe Network. Enjoy the weekend, everybody.
This is the second. 15 seconds left. Shot clock off. 4-point game. DeJulius puts up a 3.